Hey, it's Maris from Attio, and this is an overview of calculation blocks in workflows. Calculation blocks can be used to transform existing attributes to be used in later workflow steps. I'm going to build a workflow to help our customer success team keep track of and prioritize newly created customer accounts. Anytime a customer signs up for a new workspace, it will schedule a 1-week check-in as well as update revenue information about the account. So it's triggered anytime a new workspace record is created. The first thing I want to do in this workflow is create a task for our customer success team to schedule the check-in with this customer 1 week after they created their workspace. To allow us to set this due date for 1 week's time, we need to use our first calculation block, which is the adjust time block. The block will take a timestamp to use as its starting point, and in this case, this will be the date that the workspace was created. An offset is the time that you want to add or subtract from the starting time frame. You need to add in the number and select the unit. So for this example, I am adding 1 and selecting week. So this will now add 1 week to the date that the workspace was created. Now that we have calculated the date, we can use this adjusted timestamp in subsequent steps. Let's create a task to schedule that check-in call. For the due date, we'll use the adjusted time that we calculated in the previous step. So the due date will be in 1 week's time from when the workflow is triggered and the task is created. The linked record will be the created workspace, and we'll assign the task to the customer success team member who focuses on onboarding new workspaces. The next calculation block is a formula block, which allows you to take numbers and apply mathematical transformations to them. In this example, our back-end application automatically pushes out the annual contract value, or the ARR, for a workspace anytime a new workspace record is created. But we also want to track the monthly contract value, or the MRR, as this is a commonly used data point within our team. So we're going to calculate the MRR and store it as an additional attribute within our workspaces object. The formula block can use mathematical expressions, numbers, and variables in its input. The variables need to be from number or currency type attributes. I'm going to insert the ARR, which was automatically populated when the workspace was created, and divide it by 12 to calculate the MRR. We want to add this value to the workspace record, so we'll use the update record block next. The workspace we want to update is the workspace that was created, and we're updating the MRR attribute, and the value that we'll provide will be the output of the formula block. So to recap this workflow, we use 2 calculation blocks, adjust time and formula, to calculate a due date for a task and also to calculate the MRR based on the ARR. Let's see how this workflow works once I press publish. The workflow is triggered when a new workspace record is created. So let's create a new workspace. Let's give it a random workspace ID, associate it to a company, and then set the ARR. Let's say 12,000. That workspace has been created, so the workflow is now running in the background, and shortly you will see Attio populate the MRR and create a task due in 1 week's time. Next, we'll review a workflow that includes the aggregate values block. This workflow sends the go-to-market team a weekly update on the number of new workspaces and the total new ARR from that week. So for the trigger, we're using a recurring schedule set towards the end of the working day on Fridays. We then use the Find Records block, which we will go into more detail in a later video, to find all of the workspaces with a subscription start date that is before tomorrow and after 1 week ago, which means that the subscription has started in the last week. Now it's time for the next calculation block, which is the aggregate block, which will take a numeric attribute from a group of records and calculate either the sum, average, minimum, or maximum value. For this, I am taking the ARR of the matching workspaces that were found in the previous block and selecting sum as the type. In this example, we've aggregated across records that were returned from the find block, but you can also aggregate across relationship attributes, such as averaging the ages of all people associated with a specific company. Finally, I'm sending a Slack to the go-to-market numbers Slack channel. For the message, we have the weekly numbers, which includes the number of new workspaces taken from the Find Records block and the total new ARR taken from the aggregate block. And the last calculation block, which we won't actually use today, is a random number, which simply generates a random number between a minimum and a maximum value that you provide. You can then use this random number in subsequent steps. So those are Attio's calculation blocks. You've got adjust time to create new dates and timestamps, formula blocks to perform mathematical equations, aggregate values to calculate the sum, average, minimum and maximum of specified numerical values, and random number, which will provide a random number within a range of your choosing.